The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep hum that echoed through the vast hall. Kyle Turner walked forward, his footsteps clicking on the polished stone floor. Behind him, 3 other humans followed quietly. The chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from dozens of alien species. Today it felt like a courtroom. Kyle looked up at the circular rows of seats that rose high above him. Hundreds of alien eyes stared down at his small group. The Zilithians sat in their golden chairs, their blue skin shimmering under the bright lights. The Vorthak representatives hunched over their metal desks, their gray faces showing no emotion. The ancient Meridians floated in their energy pods, their translucent bodies glowing softly. At the center of it all sat the High Arbiter, Zex Thara. Her voice carried across the chamber without any speaker system. The Zilithians had that ability, Kyle remembered. They could project their thoughts directly into other minds. "Ambassador Turner," Zexathera began, "you stand before this council to hear our final decision regarding humanity's place in civilized space." Kyle kept his face calm, but his heart was beating fast. This moment had been coming for months. The council had been watching humanity with growing fear and anger. Humans had been expanding too fast, colonizing worlds too quickly, building ships that were too advanced. Other species had complained that humans were dangerous, unpredictable. Captain Lisa Grant sat in the observation deck above, watching through thick glass. She had commanded 3 different starships in her career, but today she felt helpless. Next to her, Admiral Peter Hayes was reading reports on his tablet. His gray hair and lined face showed the stress of the past year. "The council has deliberated for many cycles," Zexathara continued. Her mental voice was cold and sharp. "Humanity has shown a disturbing pattern of aggressive expansion and technological development that threatens the stability of our galactic community." Kyle wanted to speak, to defend his species, but the rules of the council were clear. The accused could only speak when invited. Down in the lower section, Dr. Amanda Foster whispered to Dr. Ryan Clark. They were both scientists who had studied alien biology for years. Amanda had discovered something troubling in her research. Humans could survive in environments that would kill most other species. They adapted faster, learned quicker, and solved problems in ways that confused other races. "They're afraid of us," Amanda had told Kyle before the hearing. "We're too different, too adaptable. They see us as a threat to their way of life." Ryan nodded, remembering his own studies. Human DNA was unlike anything in the galaxy. Where other species had evolved slowly and carefully, humans had developed through constant struggle and change. They were survivors in a way that made other races uncomfortable. "The evidence is clear," announced Counselor Thekvar of the Vorthak Collective. His mechanical voice buzzed through the speakers. "Humans have established 47 colonies in the past 50 standard years. They have developed faster than light travel independently. They have created weapons and defenses that surpass many established civilizations." Kyle felt a surge of pride despite the circumstances. Yes, humans had accomplished all of that. They had worked hard, explored bravely, and built amazing things. But apparently, success was a crime in the eyes of the Council. "Furthermore," added Counselor Vexandra of the Meridian Sovereignty, her voice flowing like water, "humans show an alarming tendency toward independent action. They do not seek approval for their expansion. They do not follow established protocols for first contact with new species. They act as if the rules of civilized space do not apply to them." That part stung because it was partly true. Humans did tend to act first and ask permission later. When they found a new world suitable for colonization, they moved quickly to claim it. When they encountered new species, they approached them directly rather than going through the slow council bureaucracy. In the observation deck, Captain Grant clenched her fists. She had been one of those independent actors. When her ship had discovered the Kethari, a peaceful trading species, she had made contact immediately. The council had been angry that she hadn't waited for official permission, but the Kethari had welcomed human friendship. They were still allies today. "The council has reached a unanimous decision," Zexthara announced. The chamber fell completely. Silent. Even the soft humming of the environmental systems seemed to stop. Kyle straightened his shoulders and prepared for whatever was coming. Humanity will withdraw all colonies, stations, ships, and personnel beyond the boundaries of the Sol system within 30 standard days. Any human presence detected outside of Earth's solar system after this period will be considered an act of aggression against the Galactic Council. The words hit Kyle like a physical blow. They were being exiled. 47 thriving colonies. Millions of human colonists. Decades of exploration and discovery. All of it had to be abandoned. Furthermore, Zexthera continued, humanity will submit to Council oversight for all future development. No new technology may be implemented without Council approval. No new ships may be built beyond basic transport vessels. Earth will remain under observation to ensure compliance. Admiral Hayes stood up in the observation deck, his face red with anger. The Council guards moved toward him, but he sat back down. There was nothing he could do here. Dr. Foster felt sick. The Council wasn't just exiling humanity, they were trying to cripple them. Without new technology, without the ability to expand, human civilization would stagnate and eventually decline. It was a death sentence delivered slowly. Kyle looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring down at him. Some looked satisfied, others seemed uncomfortable, but none spoke in humanity's defense. The decision was final. Do you understand these terms, Ambassador Turner? Zexthera asked. Kyle took a deep breath. He thought about all the human families living on distant worlds, all the explorers pushing into unknown space, all the scientists making discoveries that could benefit everyone. He thought about Earth, crowded and limited, trying to support all those returning people. But he also thought about something else. For months, human leaders had been quietly preparing for this possibility. They had seen the signs, felt the growing hostility from the Council. Plans had been made, resources had been gathered, and alternative strategies had been developed. I understand the terms, Kyle said clearly, his voice carried to every corner of the vast chamber. And what is humanity's response? Zexthera demanded. Kyle looked directly up at the High Arbiter. For a moment their eyes met across the distance. In that moment he saw her confidence, her certainty that humanity would break under this pressure, that they would come crawling back within a few years, begging for mercy. She had no idea what humans were really capable of when their backs were against the wall. We accept your terms, Kyle said simply. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. The Council had expected arguments, pleas, perhaps even threats. They had not expected calm acceptance. But Kyle Turner smiled slightly as he turned to leave. The Council thought they were solving a problem by exiling humanity. They had no idea they were creating something far more dangerous than anything they had feared before. The humans would leave, exactly as ordered, and the Council would soon discover what a terrible mistake they had made. 6 months had passed since the Council's ultimatum, and the galaxy felt strangely quiet. Commander Jake Miller guided his patrol ship through the empty space where New Terra Colony used to be. The massive orbital stations were gone. The mining platforms that had dotted the asteroid belt had vanished. Even the small research outposts on the distant moons had disappeared without a trace. Jake had been assigned to inspect all the former human territories. The Council wanted to make sure the exile was complete. So far he had visited 12 systems and the result was always the same. Nothing remained except empty space and dead planets. Sir, the scans are complete, reported his navigation officer, a young Zilithian named Kextal. No human life signs, no human technology, no human ships. The system is completely clean. Jake nodded, but something bothered him. It wasn't just that the humans were gone. It was how thoroughly they had vanished. In his experience, when a species abandoned a colony, they left things behind. Old equipment that was too expensive to move. Buildings that were too difficult to dismantle. Garbage, debris, something to show they had ever been there. But the humans had taken everything. Every piece of metal, every computer chip, every scrap of useful material. They had even stripped the mining equipment from deep underground and removed the atmospheric processors from the planets. It was as if they had never existed at all. Dr. Elena Rodriguez floated in her small research station, hidden in the shadow of a dark asteroid. Her ship was running on minimal power, barely detectable by any scanning equipment. She watched the Council patrol ships move through the system, searching for any sign of human presence. Elena smiled as she reviewed the data on her screens. The Council had no idea what they were looking for. The humans hadn't just evacuated their colonies. They had carefully planned every step of their departure, every valuable resource, every piece of advanced technology, every bit of useful knowledge had been quietly moved to secret locations. Her own research station was proof of that planning. For 2 years before the ultimatum, human scientists had been building hidden bases in remote locations. They had stockpiled supplies, equipment, and data. When the evacuation order came, they were ready. On the Council world of Nexus Prime, Counselor Tekvar reviewed the reports from patrol teams across the galaxy. His mechanical brain processed the information with perfect efficiency. All human colonies evacuated. All human ships departed. All human presence eliminated from Council space. The exile appears to be complete, he announced to his fellow counselors. Our monitoring stations have detected no human signatures in any of our territories for 4 standard months. High Arbiter Zexthara felt satisfied as she read the reports. The human problem had been solved with surprising ease. She had expected resistance, maybe even war. Instead, the humans had simply packed up and left like obedient children. Where do our intelligence sources believe they went? Asked Counselor Vexandra. Tekvar activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked the last known positions of human ships as they departed Council space. The dots formed lines, leading toward the outer rim of the galaxy, where only dead stars and hostile environments existed. Our tracking systems followed the human fleet for several weeks after their departure, Tekvar explained. The ship split into multiple groups and headed for the Galactic Rim territories. Most appeared to be targeting systems that we have classified as uninhabitable. Vexandra's translucent form shimmered with amusement. They chose exile in the dead zones rather than submit to our authority. Their pride will be their destruction. Captain Tony Brooks stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Horizon, watching a red dwarf star grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, 10,000 human colonists waited in suspended animation, ready to begin their new lives. The star looked angry and hostile, just as the Council databases had described it. But Tony knew something the Council didn't. Human scientists had spent years studying systems like this one. The planets were too close to the star, bombarded by radiation that would kill most species. But humans had developed technology to deal with radiation. They had learned to build underground cities and create protective shields. Approaching the 4th planet, Captain, reported navigator Lisa Kim. The atmospheric readings match our projections, Tony nodded. The planet was a nightmare world by Council standards. Constant storms, deadly radiation, and surface temperatures that would melt most alien technology. But humans had adapted to ice ages and volcanic eruptions on Earth. They could adapt to this too. Begin descent procedures, Tony ordered. Let's show this galaxy what humans can do with a world everyone else gave up on. Dr. Amanda Foster reviewed the secret files on her portable computer as her transport ship moved through hyperspace. The Council's xenobiologists had written detailed reports about human physiology, trying to understand why humans were so different from other species. The reports made Amanda angry. The aliens saw human adaptability as a flaw, a sign of primitive evolution. They didn't understand that it was humanity's greatest strength. Where other species had evolved for specific environments, humans could change and survive almost anywhere. The Council had exiled humanity to the Rim territories because they believed the harsh conditions would destroy them. They had no idea. They were sending humans to exactly the kind of environment where they would thrive. Commander Alex Davis watched the holographic displays in his hidden command center. The base was built inside a hollow asteroid, invisible to any external scans. From here, he coordinated the movements of human ships across the Rim territories. The evacuation had been the largest logistical operation in human history. 47 colonies, each with millions of people and countless tons of equipment, had to be moved in just 30 days. But humans had been planning for this moment for years. Every ship captain knew their destination. Every colony administrator had evacuation protocols ready. Every piece of valuable equipment had been tagged for priority transport. When the order came, the entire human civilization had moved like a single organism. "Status report," Alex requested. "All colony groups have reached their assigned systems," his aide reported. "Phase 1 evacuation is complete. Phase 2 settlement operations are beginning on schedule." Alex smiled. The council thought they had scattered humanity to the winds, forcing them to struggle for survival in worthless star systems. They had no idea that humans were already building new homes in places the aliens considered impossible. On Nexus Prime, intelligence analyst Morthek studied the final tracking data from the human exodus. Something about the patterns bothered him, but he couldn't identify what. The human ships had moved too efficiently, too purposefully. There had been no panic, no desperate searching for refuge. It was almost as if they had known exactly where they were going. But that was impossible, Morthek told himself. The Rim territories were uncharted, hostile, and worthless. No civilized species had ever tried to colonize them. The humans were flying blind into the most dangerous region of the galaxy. Dr. Ryan Clark sealed the last data storage device in his laboratory. Tomorrow, his research station would be officially abandoned, just another empty facility for the council patrols to find. But everything important had already been moved to the new hidden bases. His research on alien psychology would be valuable in the years ahead. He had learned how the council species thought, how they made decisions, and most importantly, how they underestimated others. That knowledge would serve humanity well. As Jake Miller completed his patrol of the 15th abandoned human system, he filed his report with growing unease. The humans were gone exactly as ordered, but something about their departure felt wrong. It was too clean, too organized, too complete. He had the uncomfortable feeling that humanity hadn't been destroyed by the Council's ultimatum. They had simply moved somewhere else, somewhere the Council couldn't see them, and that thought worried him more than he wanted to admit. 15 years had passed since the Great Exile, and the Galactic Council had almost forgotten about humanity. The Zilithian Empire was busy fighting a border war with the Kethmori Federation. Thousands of ships clashed over mining rights in the Outer Spiral. The Vorthak Collective faced rebellions on 6 different worlds as their synthetic workers demanded independence. The Meridian Sovereignty dealt with ancient enemies awakening from long sleep in the galactic core. Captain Nicole Barnes guided her ship Far Reach through a nebula that glowed with strange colors. Her vessel looked nothing like the old human designs the Council remembered. The hull was smooth and dark, seeming to bend light around its edges. The engines made no sound and left no trace of their passage. "Captain, we're approaching the target coordinates," reported her navigator, Lieutenant Kevin Ross. His instruments showed readings that would have been impossible with old human technology. Nicole nodded as she watched the main screen. Ahead of them floated structures that defied explanation. Ancient ruins from a civilization that had died out millions of years ago. The Council species had found similar sites and declared them worthless. The technology was too old, too damaged, too alien to understand. But humans had learned to think differently during their 15 years in exile. "Begin the scanning sequence," Nicole ordered. "Dr. Carter's team is waiting for this data." Back at the Hidden Human Command Center, Admiral Stephen Walsh reviewed reports from dozens of exploration ships. Each one brought news of new discoveries, new technologies, and new opportunities. The Rim territories that the Council had written off as worthless were full of treasures that older species had missed. Stephen smiled as he read Nicole's preliminary report. Another ancient site mapped and analyzed. Another piece of the puzzle that humans were slowly putting together. The exile had forced them to become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Ben Carter stood in his laboratory, surrounded by artifacts from a dozen dead civilizations. His team had learned to read the strange writings, to understand the alien mathematics, and to reverse engineer technologies that were millions of years old. Where other species saw useless relics, humans saw opportunities to learn and grow. The energy patterns are consistent with our theory, Ben told his assistant, Dr. Patricia Moore. These ancient races discovered things about space and time that current civilizations never imagined. Patricia nodded as she studied the holographic displays. The ruins weren't just archaeological sites. They were libraries of knowledge left behind by species that had reached levels of technology the Council couldn't dream of, and humans were learning to read those libraries. Engineer Laura Kim watched her construction crews work on the surface of a planet that should have been uninhabitable. The world orbited too close to its star, bathed in radiation that would kill most life forms. But the humans had learned to use that radiation as a power source. Their cities were built underground, connected by tunnels that turned the hostile environment into an advantage. The new fusion plants are operating at 120% efficiency, Laura reported to her supervisor via comlink. We're actually producing more energy than we can use. That was becoming a common problem for human colonies. The harsh environments that the Council had assumed would destroy them were actually making them stronger. Humans learned to thrive in conditions that other species couldn't even survive. Commander Alex Davis coordinated the Rim Defense Network from his hidden base inside a shattered moon. The base had grown over 15 years from a small outpost to a major command center. Hundreds of monitoring stations tracked every movement in Council space, gathering intelligence that no other species possessed. "Sir, we have new readings from the Zalithian border," reported his intelligence officer, Captain Melissa Brown. "The war with the Kethamori is escalating. Both sides are requesting additional ships from the Council reserve fleets." Alex studied the tactical displays. The Council species were so focused on their traditional enemies that they had forgotten about the humans entirely. That blindness was exactly what humanity needed to complete their transformation. "Continue monitoring," Alex ordered, "and send word to Dr. Johnson's research teams. If the Council is pulling ships from patrol duty, we'll have more freedom to explore the outer systems." Dr. Carl Johnson had spent 15 years studying the physics of space itself. Working with artifacts from ancient civilizations, he had discovered things about faster-than-light travel that revolutionized human technology. The old human ships had been fast by Council standards. The new ships moved through space in ways that seemed to break the laws of physics. The test flight was successful, Carl reported to Admiral Walsh via encrypted communication. "The experimental drive system allows us to move through folded space without creating detectable energy signatures." Carl's breakthrough meant human. Ships could travel anywhere in the galaxy without being detected. They could observe Council activities, map their defenses, and gather intelligence while remaining completely invisible. Captain Michelle Lee commanded a fleet of 20 ships as they conducted reconnaissance missions near Council space. Her vessels were works of art, combining ancient alien technology with human engineering. They could outrun anything in the Council fleets and hide in plain sight when necessary. "Target acquired," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Scott Williams. "Council survey ship, Vorthak design, conducting routine patrols." Michelle watched the alien ship on her screen. It moved slowly and predictably, following the same patrol route it had used for months. The Vorthak crew had no idea they were being watched by instruments that could read their ship's systems from thousands of kilometers away. "Scan their databases and move on," Michelle ordered. "We need to know what they know about the Rim territories." The scan took less than a minute. Human technology could penetrate Council computer systems without leaving any trace. The aliens never suspected their information was being stolen right from under their noses. On Nexus Prime, a low-level intelligence analyst named Jex Imora noticed something strange in the patrol reports. Border Scouts had mentioned odd energy readings from the Rim territories. The readings were faint and brief, but they appeared in multiple reports from different systems. Jex Mora tried to bring the pattern to his supervisor's attention, but Counselor Thekvar was too busy with the current crisis to worry about distant sensor ghosts. The readings were probably just natural phenomena from unstable stars or cosmic storms, but Jex Mora wasn't convinced. The energy signatures didn't match any known natural occurrence. They looked almost like the exhaust trails from advanced starships, but that was impossible. No civilized species lived in the Rim territories. Dr. Ashley Martin completed her analysis of captured Council technology in her secret laboratory. Her findings were disturbing and encouraging at the same time. The alien races had advanced very little in the past 15 years. Their technology had stagnated while they focused on political conflicts and territorial disputes. Meanwhile, humans had been forced to innovate by necessity. Every challenge in the Rim territories required new solutions. Every hostile environment demanded new technologies. Every ancient ruin offered new knowledge to master. They've stopped growing, Ashley reported to the Research Council. The major species are so comfortable with their established technology that they've forgotten how to adapt and improve. That complacency would be their downfall. Humans had learned to see opportunity in every obstacle, to find strength in every hardship. The exile that was supposed to destroy them had instead forged them into something unprecedented. Engineer Danny Taylor watched the final tests of humanity's newest starship design. The vessel was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Its hull incorporated materials from ancient ruins that made it nearly indestructible. Its engines used principles of physics that the Council didn't understand. Its weapons could disable enemy ships without destroying them. All systems green, Danny reported. The prototype is ready for operational deployment. Admiral Walsh smiled as he received the report. After 15 years of preparation, humanity was ready to return to the galaxy. But they wouldn't be coming back as exiles begging for forgiveness. They would return as something the Council had never faced before. The Rim territories had not destroyed humanity. They had transformed it into the galaxy's new apex predator. The first alarm sounded on the Zilithian border station at 0347 Standard Time. Lieutenant Kexvar stared at his scanner readings with confusion. 3 unknown ships had appeared out of nowhere, moving at impossible speeds through the patrol zone. "Sir, the ships don't match any designs in our database," Kexvar reported to his commander. "They're scanning our installations and then vanishing before we can lock weapons." Commander Zilthek studied the tactical display with growing concern. The mystery ships moved like nothing he had ever seen. They appeared, gathered information, and disappeared faster than his sensors could track them. When his patrol ships tried to intercept, the unknown vessels simply weren't there anymore. "Send an alert to Fleet Command," Zilthek ordered. "We may have a new threat in our territory." Captain Greg Foster smiled as he watched the Zilithian patrol ships scramble to respond to his presence. His ship Ghost Runner was invisible to their outdated sensors most of the time. When he wanted to be seen, he could appear and disappear like a phantom, gathering intelligence while the aliens panicked. "Their response time is 12 minutes from detection to weapons lock," Greg reported to his tactical officer. "Their ships are slow and predictable. This will be easier than we thought." Greg's mission was simple: test Council defenses, measure their response capabilities, and demonstrate that human ships could go anywhere they wanted without being stopped. So far, the results were better than expected. Admiral Rachel White coordinated the human reconnaissance effort from her flagship Vengeance. 20 different ships were conducting similar tests across Council space. Each one gathered data about alien military capabilities while showing the enemy that their borders meant nothing to human technology. "All teams report successful penetration of Council territory," her communications officer announced. "No losses, minimal detection, maximum intelligence gathered." Rachel reviewed the incoming data with satisfaction. The Council's defenses were outdated and ineffective against human technology. Their ships were designed to fight each other, not to deal with vessels that could appear and vanish at will. On Nexus Prime, emergency sessions of the Galactic Council were becoming daily events. Reports flooded in from across Council space about mysterious ships that no one could identify or catch. The Zilithians blamed the Vorthak. The Vorthak suspected the Meridians. Everyone pointed fingers while the unknown threat grew bolder. High Arbiter Zexthara struggled to maintain order as the council chamber erupted in accusations and arguments. "We need facts, not theories," she projected to the assembled representatives. "What do we know about these intruders?" Councillor Thekvar activated holographic displays showing the scattered reports. "The ships appear to use unknown propulsion technology. They can travel faster than our vessels and remain undetected by our sensors. Most concerning, they seem to be gathering intelligence about our military installations." The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Someone was preparing for war against them, and they had no idea who it was. Dr. Ashley Martin completed her final analysis of council military technology as human ships continued their reconnaissance missions. Her report would soon reach every human commander in the galaxy. The aliens had not improved their weapons or defenses in over a decade. They were sitting targets for human forces equipped with advanced technology. "Their energy shields can't stop our new weapons," Ashley reported to Admiral White. "Their armor plating is vulnerable to the composite materials we developed from ancient ruins. Their computer systems can be hacked and controlled remotely." The technological gap had become so wide that a single human ship could disable multiple council vessels without being damaged. The exile had given humanity an overwhelming advantage that the aliens didn't even know existed. Captain Danny Wilson received his orders as he prepared for the most important mission of his career. He would lead the first official contact between humans and the Council in 20 years. But this time, humanity would not be asking for permission or begging for mercy. His fleet consisted of 12 ships that represented the peak of human engineering. Each vessel incorporated technology from a dozen extinct civilizations, powered by energy sources the Council couldn't comprehend, and protected by defenses that made them nearly invulnerable. "All ships report ready for hyperspace jump," his navigation officer announced. Danny nodded as he looked at the main screen showing empty space where the Council's capital system lay waiting. "Begin the approach. Let's show them what humanity has become." The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus Prime system like ghosts materializing from the void. Council defense platforms immediately detected their arrival, but the readings made no sense. The ships appeared to be absorbing sensor waves instead of reflecting them. Admiral Velkara of the Council Defense Fleet stared at her instruments in disbelief. The unknown vessels were approaching the capital world at a steady pace, ignoring all communication attempts and defensive warnings. More disturbing, her weapons systems couldn't get a targeting lock on the strange ships. "Sir, the intruders are not responding to our challenges," her tactical officer reported. "Should we open fire?" Velkara hesitated. The mystery ships hadn't shown any hostile intent yet, but their very presence was a violation of Council space. If she attacked and they were diplomatic vessels, it could start a war. If she didn't attack and they were enemies, the capital world would be defenseless. Engineer Maria Santos watched from her position on Danny Wilson's flagship as the Council Defense Fleet struggled to deal with their arrival. Human ships used adaptive armor that changed its properties based on incoming threats. To the aliens, it looked like the vessels were made of living metal that could reshape itself at will. "They're trying to scan our hull composition," Maria reported with amusement. "Their instruments can't identify any of our materials." That was because human ships were built from substances that didn't exist anywhere else in the galaxy. Materials created by combining elements from ancient alien technology with human engineering knowledge. The result was armor that could absorb energy weapons and deflect physical projectiles. The Council emergency session was in chaos as reports arrived about the fleet approaching their capital world. The mystery ships had ignored all challenges and defensive warnings. They moved through Council space as if they owned it, completely unconcerned about the massive defense fleet that surrounded them. "We should attack them immediately," demanded the Zilithian military representative. "Their presence is an act of war." "We don't even know who they are," argued the Vorthak diplomat. "Attacking unknown vessels could trigger a conflict with a species we've never encountered." Zexathera tried to maintain order, but fear was spreading through the Council chambers. The unknown ships were unlike anything they had ever seen. Their technology was clearly superior to anything the Council possessed. Ambassador Kevin Wright stood on the bridge of the flagship as it approached the Council space station. 20 years ago, Kyle Turner had stood in the Council chambers as humanity was sentenced to exile. Today, Kevin would deliver humanity's response to that judgment. The communication channel opened and Kevin's image appeared on screens throughout the Council chambers. The representatives stared in shock at the human face they hadn't seen for 2 decades. "Honored counselors," Kevin began, his voice calm and confident. "I am Ambassador Kevin Wright, representing the human colonies of the Galactic Rim territories. We have returned to discuss new arrangements for our relationship with Council space." The chamber erupted in stunned silence. Then, angry voices. Humans were supposed to be extinct, destroyed by the harsh conditions of the Outer Rim. They were not supposed to be commanding fleets of advanced starships that made Council technology look primitive. Zexathara fought to regain control of the session. The humans were exiled from civilized space. They have no right to return. Kevin smiled, and the expression sent chills through every alien watching. 20 years ago, you forced us to leave because you feared what we might become. Today, we return to show you that your fears were justified. He gestured to the displays showing human ships surrounding the Council capital. Each vessel was a masterpiece of advanced technology that the aliens couldn't understand or match. "We are no longer the species you exiled," Kevin continued. "The Rim territories that you believed would destroy us have instead forged us into something unprecedented. We have learned from civilizations older than your empires. We have mastered technologies beyond your comprehension. We have become what you always feared we would become." The truth hit the Council members like a physical blow. Their attempt to contain humanity had failed catastrophically. Instead of destroying the human threat, they had created something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. "What do you want?" Zexathara asked, her mental projection weak with fear. Kevin's smile widened. "We want you to understand that the galaxy has a new dominant species. The age of Council rule is ending. The age of humanity has begun." The greatest irony was complete. The Council had tried to prevent humanity from becoming a galactic power by forcing them into exile. Instead, they had given humans exactly what they needed to surpass every other species in the galaxy. The Council's attempt to control their fate had sealed their own.